Welcome to our Curious Amalgam, the weekly podcast brought to you by the Antitrust Law section of the American Bar Association. Our Curious Amalgam explores the fascinating and increasingly overlapping world of competition, consumer protection, data protection, and privacy law. Each week, we bring you leading global experts on the most compelling issues of the day. Enjoy the show.
Hello and welcome to our Curious Amalgam. I'm Alicia Downey, and the title of today's episode is Who is Renata Hesse? Meet the 2025-2026 chair of the ABA Antitrust Law section. Every August, a new section chair is elevated from the position as designated chair-elect. This year, Renata Hesse has taken on the big job of chairing the section. And today, we'll talk to her about her goals and themes for the coming year. We'll also meet her colleague, Dan Richardson, who is serving in the position of counsel to the chair. But before we talk about that, I'd like to welcome my co-host, Anora Wong. Hi, Anora.
Hi, Alicia.
Would you like to introduce our guests and kick off the conversation?
We have Renata Hesse, who is co-head of the law firm Sullivan Cromwell's Antitrust Group. Renata's practice focuses on antitrust counseling, cartels, merger clearances, and criminal antitrust investigations. Previously, Renata led the antitrust division at the Department of Justice twice as the acting assistant attorney general and serving that division for more than 15 years. In between her careers at the DOJ, Renata also served as the senior counsel to the chairman of the Federal Communications Commission. Recognizing Renata's professional success and a contribution to the development in the antitrust law field, Renata was inducted into the ABA Antitrust Law Section's Hall of Feminism in 2024. Dan Richardson is an associate in Sullivan & Cromwell. His practice focuses on complex civil litigation and appeals related to antitrust, intellectual property, and securities. Outside of his antitrust practice, Dan also maintains an active pro bono practice focusing on protecting the rights of transgender youth. Like Renata, Dan is active within the ABA Antitrust Law section, and he's serving as the counsel to the chair in this section year. Welcome, Renata and Dan.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Thank you, Anora. It's great to be here with you and Alicia.
Renata, I know I just gave a 5 sentences bio of you, but obviously we want to hear more about your career path. Tell a little bit about yourself, maybe outside of what I have just said. How did you get into the antitrust business?
Yeah, so I had a somewhat non-traditional path into antitrust. I did not take it in law school. And I started out at a law firm in San Francisco. I went to law school in Berkeley, and I grew up in Berkeley, actually. So I started at a law firm in San Francisco doing intellectual property litigation. And I was doing a lot of cases for Nintendo. They were patent and copyright cases mostly. I got introduced to antitrust in those cases because there were antitrust counterclaims in them. And the partner that I worked with on those cases went on to the antitrust division. Ann Bingaman brought him to the antitrust division to be one of her litigators. And about a year after he left, I ended up following him to Washington, D.C. and joining the antitrust division. And that's how I became an antitrust lawyer.
Was the intersection of intellectual property and antitrust already so complicated that back then?
So I think it's probably gotten a little more complicated. What I like to think about both disciplines is they actually are very related, and so I wouldn't say it was an easy transition from intellectual property to antitrust, but the basic ideas behind them are the same, which is how do you take these statutes, most of which are quite old, and use them to propel innovation and economic growth and development. And the thing I really like about both of them is that they are really about the real world. So you work on a copyright case, and like I mentioned, I worked on these cases for Nintendo. So everybody knows what Nintendo is, and the same thing when I'm working on transactions or with companies and counseling or criminal matters. Most of the time, what you're dealing with is something that's actually happening in the real world. And I really like that about both disciplines.
Along with your career within the bar and also serving the government, you have also been active within the ABA Antitrust Law section for a long time, now serving as the section chair this year. Could you share with us, do you have a theme or maybe plural themes, and any goals for this section year?
So I wouldn't say that I actually have a theme. I've been thinking about this a lot because I need to write my welcome message, and so that's one of the things that I've been trying to think about how to frame how I see the coming year. One of the things I think a lot about, having come out of the government at the end of the Obama administration and watching a lot of dynamism and change in antitrust and antitrust enforcement, and the language we use to talk about antitrust, and the things that the public demands or seems to be demanding from antitrust, is, what really is the role of antitrust enforcement and antitrust generally in our economic growth and, as I said, sort of propelling our innovation economy. I've always taken it for granted that antitrust and competitive markets are a key part of what makes the American economy so great. So I thought about, really asking the question, how do we know that? And are there things we can do to try to actually demonstrate in some way that antitrust has played a role? And then on the other hand, or the other side of the ledger, ask the question, there's a lot of unhappiness out in the world right now, and a lot of a sense that the economy has left people behind, and there's been a real focus on this idea that maybe we haven't been doing enough antitrust enforcement, and that's caused our markets to be too concentrated and to not function in the way that we really want them to function. So I think it's good to ask the question, is that actually true? What has led to some of the concentration that we see in certain marketplaces? Is it regulation? Is it lack of enforcement? Is it legislation? So I think I'm going to spend some time this year trying to figure out how to bring those questions out and have people talk about them and think about them.
Now, one of the things the section chairs have to do is travel here and there, appearing at conferences and representing the section in all kinds of places. Your predecessor, Steve Cernak, I believe, has bragged of visiting 6 continents or something like that during his year. What are you most looking forward to in your term?
I think what I'm most looking forward to is, being part of this amazing community and leading this amazing community of antitrust and consumer protection and data privacy lawyers. It's a huge privilege to be able to do it. And I love going out and going to meetings and meeting people and talking to them about the section and why they're joined in the section. I haven't put a continent goal in my thinking. But I really am. I'm looking forward to. We're doing a GSS in Brussels. We'll be doing a GSS in Mexico City, I think. We've got. There's just a tremendous amount of really interesting programming that's going to happen this year. We've got Cartel coming up in 2026, and all sorts of other. Obviously, spring, fall forum coming in November. That's going to be focused on state enforcement. So there's a lot of fun and interesting content that we're going to be putting out, and I'm really looking forward to making the section, and this isn't a change, but to really having the section be a center for discussion and debate around issues relating to antitrust and consumer protection and data privacy.
And more specifically, what do you think will be some of the trends or developments that the section's members will see having the greatest impact on them in perhaps this year or perhaps in the near term?
So, I think it's a really interesting time in the world, and it's a really interesting time in the antitrust and consumer protection and data privacy world. There's just a lot of change going on. The economy's different. We're settling into a new administration here in the U.S. There are administration changes going on around the world. There are competition agency changes going on around the world. And so I think what we'll see a trend of people continuing to ask the question about global cooperation and coordination. Is that working? Should we be doing more of that? I know one of the things that this administration has really started to think about and ask is, are these, I'll call them areas of soft power? So are, multilateral organizations where the U.S. participates and often leads them, are those accomplishing what we want them to accomplish? We have a new chair of ICN, Andrea Marvan from Mexico. So that's going to be a really different feeling for ICN. So I think we're going to see a lot of movement, and some of that might feel a little bit disconcerting in some cases. I'm hoping what we'll see is really a movement and change on a continuum that maintains some of the stability and consensus that I think a lot of us feel there is around antitrust and the goals of antitrust.
I would like to think a section chair is more like a law school professor in a class, leading us, asking us to think. This is going to be a tough year. Maybe not cold calls, but a lot of questions that we're asked to think harder about. Leading the section chair is not an easy job. It's also not a job that you just take upon one day in the morning. It takes a long time culminating to it. You spend a long time serving the section and thinking about what you want to do in your year. So maybe it's too early when you just start a job to think about the term legacy. But if we're thinking in 5 or 10 years, looking back, how would you want your quote unquote legacy of your term to be?
So I think the way I always sort of think about myself and the role that I play in any organization that I play a part in is that I like to think of myself as a stabilizing force. I'm a pretty calm person, and I do tend to see lots of different perspectives, and I value a lot of different perspectives. So calm doesn't always mean, or stabilizing doesn't always mean not doing anything or doing things the same way. But I would like people to think about this year as being fun, a little bit laid back and more personal, which is also one of the things that I sort of have my kind of Northern California vibe to me that I like to carry along with me wherever I go, and where we really do try to think about interesting and hard problems, and where we don't shy away from debate and discussion. And I'd like that debate and discussion to be polite and open, and to have all of us who have different perspectives coming into the work that we do, whether it's work from different countries or from different parts of the sides of the V, as we often say, or from the government or from private practice or in-house or defense firms or plaintiffs firms. The section is full of lots of different people with lots of different viewpoints. And I would like all of those viewpoints to be part of the discussion. The thing that I don't want is for there to be debates and discussions where people end up sort of saying, oh, no, you're wrong, I'm right. I think we want to be in a place where we're acknowledging differences, and where we don't have consensus or don't have the answer, we're acknowledging that and letting the people who read our articles or go to our conferences or listen to our webinars, letting them make up their own minds about which side of the discussion or debate they think is the right side.
Well, thank you, Renata. Well said. What we're going to do now is take a few minutes to meet your counsel to the chair, Dan Richardson. And we'd like to first ask Dan a couple of things. Number one, tell us a little bit about yourself and your practice, and also remind people what exactly is the counsel to the chair.
Well, if you find out, tell me. On my practice, I actually began as an appellate lawyer. That was my training. That was my background. But then I got to the firm and just did some antitrust projects with Renata and just loved it. And then I got into the ABA section, loved the people, loved the community, and I've just stayed ever since. And I think that's actually pretty common for folks in the section. You go to meetings, there are a lot of people who started doing something else, like Renata, like me, met the people, just loved the work, and we've all kind of stuck around now for years. I guess for me, it's now been 7 years of work with Renata, and I've loved it the whole time.
So we've heard Renata describing what she wanted the style or what people to feel in this section to be calm, personable, related. Are those words you're going to be using to describe her leadership? Or can you elaborate a little bit more if there's any difference in what you would be describing?
Well, first off, thank you for the chance to compliment my own boss on a podcast. This is just great. No, but seriously, she's very calm, steady presence in the firm, in the ABA, in the community. When I think about kind of what defines Renata's leadership, it's taking people's views seriously. So for me as a junior lawyer with a lot of crazy ideas, that was a huge benefit. For our clients, that's a huge benefit. And I think for the section, it's a huge benefit because, I mean, like she was saying, the antitrust section is the home of defense bar attorneys, plaintiffs bar attorneys, academics, enforcers, international members. And for that to work, you need to have somebody who treats every member and their views with respect. And to me, that's kind of what Renata's all about.
I'm assuming you're also going on some of the trips that the section would be taking to meet the members around the world. Are you looking forward to anything in particular?
Well, we have some great stuff coming up here in the States. I have a 3-month-old baby, so who knows how many trips I'll be going on. But we have a consumer event coming up, a plaintiffs event coming up. The Fall Forum this year in D.C. is actually focused on state enforcement, so that'll be wonderful. The Brussels GSS is going to be great. So there's a lot going on this year. And then obviously it's spring, so many members from around the world kind of gather in one place. And that's still a really, really special event.
And people may not know this counsel to the section chair is actually a really hard job. And it takes more than 1 year for you to actually serve in that role. Anything you would share in the job that you have already been taking on and also in the time leading up to this role that you think is the most interesting or something unexpected before?
I think it's just all about the people. I mean, this job is wonderful because our section has so many talented, amazing lawyers, but they're also just wonderful people. And I think it's part of what makes the practice of antitrust so great is that the bar just operates with a lot of respect and a lot of collegiality. So as counsel, I just get to meet a lot of these people. And it's a lot of work, but it's been absolutely wonderful.
Well, you're certainly giving us all the warm and fuzzy feelings. And I hope that the members of the section appreciate it and enjoy it while you guys are in your terms. Thank you both for a very interesting conversation. We look forward to what's going to happen in the coming year. Before we let you go, however, we'd like to get to know our guests a little bit better as people. So what I'd like to find out first from each of you is there anything interesting or unusual about yourself that is completely outside of your professional life? Renata, you first.
I really was I've been thinking about this question because I'm not a virtuoso violinist and hiding behind a curtain. I don't, so I guess I think there's one thing about me that many people do know, but I think probably don't quite understand what a big impact it has on me, is that I'm a juvenile diabetic, and I've been a juvenile diabetic since I was 8 years old. So I'm now very old. So it's been 53 years of living with diabetes, which has been like a scientific experiment. There's been so much change. And over the years, I used to, caution people, if you kind of see me looking a little strange or not responding, or I'm not, I actually just need some sugar, so could just hand me a Coke. Because as the technology's gotten better, I've gotten better at managing it. But it really used to be, sometimes I would be sitting up on a stage doing a presentation and my blood sugar would start to get low and I'd have to start eating while I was talking, which was not very good. So anyway, that's been an ever-present part of me, and I think it really has it's imprinted my life in lots of different ways that I think even I don't really fully understand.
And Dan, how about you?
There were many years of my life where I thought I'd be a professional saxophonist. That obviously is not what I do now. I looked around and saw a lot more lawyers getting paid than professional classical saxophonists, but it's still something I'm very passionate about.
within the section, there is no shortage of musical talents. There's a band. Maybe there can be another band, or maybe even a bigger organization, including a saxophone in it. We certainly look forward to hearing some of that in the section events.
Yeah, I think I need to find some practice time before that, but I like the idea.
Well, thanks to both of you. Now, the last thing we're going to do is play a little game we call The Curious Hat.
And now it's time for The Curious Hat!
The rules of the game are extremely simple. Anora is going to pull a random surprise question from the virtual hat. So take it away, Anora.
I'm just going to pick a random question for each of you. Renata, the question for you is, are you a cat person or a dog person, or neither, and why?
Oh, I'm totally a dog person. I mean, I love all animals. I really am. I was trying to think of, I didn't think that was really an interesting fact about me, but I'm like kind of an animal nut. But dogs are definitely my jam.
I'm not a fan at all, as I'm a cat companion. I wouldn't even say an owner, but I totally get it. All fuzzy and warmness from the furry children that we have. For Dan, the question for you is, if you could choose a free front row ticket for any performing arts show or festival in the world, what would you choose?
Would probably go to the Lady Gaga show currently happening in New York. That looks like a good time. I'm sad to miss it.
Yeah, I heard it's absolutely amazing. It's incredible.
I keep seeing pictures on Instagram, and I'm getting FOMO sitting here.
Aw, well, pull out the saxophone and, offer to play in her band. Thank you, both of you, for a really wonderful conversation. I know Anora and I both look forward to seeing you around the section in the coming year. And thank you, Anora, for being a wonderful co-host as always. Thank you to listeners. Tune into next week's Our Curious Amalgam.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Our Curious Amalgam, a competition, consumer protection, data protection, and privacy law podcast. It is produced and shared around the globe by ABA's Antitrust Law Section. The opinions expressed by the participants in this podcast are their own and do not necessarily represent their employer or other organizations. If you like what you heard or would like to become a member of the American Bar Association, please check out what the Antitrust section has to offer at ambar.org/antitrust. You can learn more about our podcast at ourcuriousamalgam.com. If you have comments, suggestions, or podcast ideas, please reach out to us at podcast@ourcuriousamalgam.com. Until next time, thank you for listening.